Yeah, go ahead, Rajiv. You were going to describe what Antahkarana Shuddhi actually means.
I think it is very closely affiliated with the ability to do selfless service, right? You do actions without expecting anything in return, and leave the phalam to Brahman, right? That was I thought one
But
of the
that's a
foundational.
means. That's a means to get
Okay.
there, right?
Yeah.
But what is it? What is it actually? What is it? What does a person with Antahkarana Shuddhi? What characterizes that
All of
person
correct.
compared to a person who doesn't have?
Stability of the mind, not getting impacted by experiences, staying calm, both in terms of when things are going well for you or when things are not going well for you. Equanimity is associated with that. Peace of mind. um, um, yeah, I think those were the things that come out. Mm.
What about others? I mean,
Yeah, I think Rajiv used the word calm. That's the word I would have used. That calmness, that stability and calmness. By the way, Dheeraj, just below on your Zoom menu, you'll see this thing AI tool like a diamond, bluish white. Do you see it?
no,
Close to record, close to apps.
no. I just see more, and within more there is also nothing. No, I don't see any bluish diamond.
No, not blue. It's more white than blue, but
A diamond. It is something called host tools.
no. AI compa It's called AI companion
No, no, I don't have it here.
because you should try to get it. I don't know whether you have to check something or not because you're recording it, but it'll also give you a beautiful summary in text of the hour and a half.
Okay.
But that is,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Perfect. I will
yeah,
look. I've heard of this AI companion, so I'll look for it
yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
And it does it very, very nicely.
Okay. Good point. Thank you. Okay. So you were saying calm. I think even I would even push you guys further. Like even calm is a symptom, is a product of a mind which has Antahkarana Shuddhi, right? So you can have many different things. Calm, you can say, selfless service, all of those things. But what exactly is it? Like,
I think
if you
whatever
take an
means you say
Antahkarana,
whatever,
huh?
and you say whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. So when somebody says whatever, so that
But what is it exactly?
Is
Like,
it that our feeling of I, me, the ego, if that is very predominant,
right,
and other things they follow this ego? I mean, everything else like the desires and
right,
hatred, jealousy, love, everything, I think it is revolves around the
ego.
ego. So bringing that ego, how to put it, उसको ईगो वाली चीज को खत्म
खत्म करना.
करना would be probably
Dissolve dissolve the
Shuddhi,
ego.
I think
dissolving or
yeah, no,
resolving.
absolutely right. Absolutely. I mean, actually, all of you are right. I mean, it's just different parts of it. It's maybe I'm not framing the question very well, but where I was, but let's see. The purpose, the reason why we say that Antahkarana Shuddhi is important, if the one word that comes to my mind is it's objective. See, Antahkarana is an instrument, right? It's an instrument through which you get knowledge, through which you perceive the world, through which everything is done. If the instrument is not clean, you won't get right knowledge.
Mhm.
What will happen is, let's say if you have a lens and through which you are looking at you're looking at a telescope and you're looking at the space around you, you're looking at different stars and so on. If the lens has wrinkles, or if it is distorted in any way, then you wouldn't get an accurate understanding of where each star is. Some stars which are close will seem distant, some which are distant will seem close. All those kinds of things will happen, right? So, Antahkarana Shuddhi literally means having a mind which is free of bias, which is free of distortion, so that whatever knowledge is coming your way from Vedanta or anywhere else, you see that knowledge the way it should be seen. You don't color it with your own biases and your own perceptions. And we can all say, "Nahi, nahi, we are very objective. We will not color it." But it is impossible to not color it. Almost impossible to not color it. We will color it. And there are many different kinds of colorations that happen because of when we listen to anything at all. I mean, the clearest example is, in American or Indian politics right now. I mean, we've just gone through an election. And the same information, the same thing is seen as completely differently by the Republicans versus the Democrats. And both of them are totally nice, good, decent human beings, but they will see it totally differently because their minds are colored. And it's the same. That is just one thing. Your children, your wife, your husband, your family, your loved ones, your friends, you will see a very different, they have a different, anything coming from them to you will have a different impact than to someone who doesn't care for them, or from someone you don't care for. So the coloration, this kind of coloration is there in our life all along. We have strong notions, or subtle notions rather, not strong, subtle but strong notions of what is good and what is not good. And the good things we accept, the bad things we reject, almost subconsciously. So understanding what is causing the biases in our mind and being able to resolve those biases is Antahkarana Shuddhi. So that, in Vedanta, the reason for Antahkarana Shuddhi is so that the knowledge which is coming to you, you can receive it properly. When somebody says that you are the same as another person, if someone says, you are Ishwar, Mukta is Ishwar, Sanjay is also Ishwar, Atul is also Ishwar, Dheeraj is also Ishwar. Okay, when somebody tells me Dheeraj is Ishwar, I'm willing to accept it, it's good. But if it says Dheeraj is Ishwar and so is, say, Trump, for example, right? Or somebody else who I don't consider as or Duryodhan, why be political? Or Duryodhan is also Ishwar. I'm going to have a pretty hard time accepting that I am like Duryodhan. It may not even happen in a conscious way. It will happen in an unconscious way. You will reject this little piece of knowledge. You may give lip service to it, but deep inside you will never believe it. You will never understand it. Because you have such a strong bias which you don't even know exists. But if you know that the bias exists, then you can do something about it. So Antahkarana Shuddhi is very important for knowledge, for this knowledge, which is such an objective knowledge. This knowledge is not this is not religious knowledge. This is not knowledge in the praise of God. This is not knowledge about, praising humanity. None of these things. It's as objective as physics and chemistry. It's really objective knowledge. So it's important for that. Go ahead. Sorry, Mukta.
No, I just wanted to ask in this context, like what you're saying is having a different viewpoint or a different perspective for the same knowledge. Different people, is it this that you are saying?
Yes, you can say that also. Different people will have different viewpoint for the same knowledge.
Okay.
Some people will accept the knowledge, some won't. That is also.
But what I want to ask or say is that isn't Antahkarana Shuddhi required? See, I would say मेरी Antahkarana Shuddhi अच्छी तरह नहीं है. I know, I accept it. ठीक है? But after these 2-3 years and having listened and gone through, studied, whatever, I understand Vedanta. I theoretically get it. I look at it in the same perspective as it is being said. That's how I think. But as long as you listen, as long as for some time it is there, but once you come into the Vyavharika world, it goes in the background somewhere.
Yeah.
So I would say that Antahkarana Shuddhi is required probably to live the knowledge,
Yes, that's
isn't
absolutely
it?
true. I was going to say that. Actually, I was going to finish this, and this is not all that Antahkarana Shuddhi is important for. Antahkarana Shuddhi is required to understand the knowledge. It is required to live the knowledge, meaning, what does it mean, live the knowledge? It is another way of saying Jnana Nishtha. That means having conviction in that knowledge, total conviction. So, and that conviction means it is there all the time. You can't be convinced about it at one moment in time, in another moment, not be convinced about it, right? So, having conviction, it's just called Jnana Nishtha in Vedanta. So, Antahkarana Shuddhi is required for Jnana Nishtha. But even apart from this, Antahkarana Shuddhi will help you even without this knowledge. Antahkarana Shuddhi is required for
Yeah.
contentment and peace. Like, even if you're not doing Vedanta, let's say you're
Yeah.
just
I get
anything,
Yeah.
meditation. Meditation brings Antahkarana Shuddhi, and that will be helpful to you anyway. You'll find that peace, a certain degree of peace, even without knowledge, because
True.
you're beginning to resolve the issues of your mind. But for Vedanta, if you really want to understand and have Jnana Nishtha, then Antahkarana Shuddhi is an imperative. It's not a desirable thing. It is a must. Because otherwise you will never be able to bring that knowledge to your life. Because it'll always be in some compartment somewhere in your mind as another
Yeah,
piece of
exactly.
knowledge, as another knowledge, and you bring it when you need it or when you want it. That's not Jnana Nishtha. You won't get the full impact of it. So where I was trying to say was the reason why Antahkarana Shuddhi is important is because it makes your mind sharper and it makes your mind unbiased. And the problem is, if you have a telescope with a distorted lens, and that is all you have, how do you know that the lens is distorted? You'll think that is what the world is. That is why Antahkarana Shuddhi is so difficult. Because everybody thinks my view is right. I mean, they have no doubt about it. Like they think that the other person is evil or is not good or is dheet, is like a stubborn guy who refuses to accept reality. So dealing with this, I mean, to me, I've found, and I've read about it also, and I've found it personally also, that the most difficult part of spirituality is this. Learning the knowledge, it'll come. Because some dheere dheere kar karke, mar ke, you will understand what is being said. But to understand your own self and to be able to really question it and say, okay, am I really objective, is very, very tough. And when you say that spirituality is a lifelong thing, that's what it is. It's a lifelong quest to look at yourself and clean up every wrinkle as it comes. One by one, you clean up the wrinkles. You smoothen the wrinkles. You can't just do it all in one go. It doesn't happen like that. So all these techniques, all these things are there to point out to you. Something or the other may strike you. Something may hit you, and then you will see, oh yeah, I see this in me. So when Bhagavan Krishna says amanitvam comes from man, like I said in the video. Man is man samman, respect. Amanitvam means not having a desire for that respect, not having that craving for man. You see in yourself, how often do you have a craving for respect? How much of what we are doing is for getting that respect from others? It's not for anything unwanted. It's for this. Man means getting respect for things that you actually have. You actually think you're very smart and you have something to offer to the world. And then you want to offer it, but then you want to get respected and acknowledged for that. Nothing wrong in it. Nothing wrong, but it is a wrinkle. It stops you from seeing things properly because you will see how that man becomes so important that you will go convoluted. And if you don't get that man, you'll start getting hurt in yourself. I have this and I'm not acknowledged, and the other person is acknowledged. Why? It causes, it causes problems. But if you understand that, okay, it's my man, or my desire for man, my respect, that is driving this from me, then you suddenly are able to detach and take a backseat. You're suddenly able to detach from that and say, okay, I understand. Even I'm being driven. The reason I'm feeling upset is because I wanted this recognition and I'm not getting it, and I think it's unfair because I want it. It's like a desire for recognition. And then you say, do I really need to have that desire for recognition? Like, what's my problem with the way things are? That kind of thing. So that's sort of a mechanism that you go through in your mind will take away little by little, wrinkle by wrinkle. It gets you purification. So Vedant gives you techniques. Bhagavan Krishna has given you Karma Yoga. That's a macro level technique on how to live your life. Karma Yoga is not going to make you Antahkarana Shuddhi by itself. Karma Yoga is a framework on how to live your life. When you live your life like this, in that environment, it becomes easier for you to see your specific issues, and then you deal with them one by one. You still have to deal with them one by one. But if you live a life of a Karam Yogi, it becomes much easier to see them. If you're living in corporate life where everybody is just like this only, they're all ego-driven and biased and everything, you don't even see. You may even think, hey, I am so much better than them. You won't see your issues. You get it?
Yeah.
Atul and Rajiv and Sanjay?
Yeah.
Do you see why Antahkarana Shuddhi is very important? Do you see why, even if you don't, why most people, when they think about spirituality or even Vedanta, what they have in mind is Antahkarana Shuddhi rather than knowledge. Most people just want relief and anxiety from anxiety. They want a little peace in mind in life. And all these things like meditation, Karam Yoga, etc., they help you with that. They give you an environment for that. So most people think this is what spirituality is. For them, spirituality means, how can I be calm? How can I be measured in my reactions? How can I be stable? Right? And those are that's 95% of the way there. You can say, in a way. I mean, that's not accurate, but whatever. But that is a desire in its own right, because it brings a lot of peace to you right now, right away. But in actual fact, it's a stepping stone. But it doesn't matter, even if you can just get there without the knowledge, that's also great. But from a pure Vedanta perspective, that's a stepping stone. It's a necessary stepping stone so that you can really understand what you are. That's the theory. Okay.
It's because like the way we are brought up in our society, mostly it is that dharma or the religion. Dharma means ethics,
Yeah.
which are in the part of the religious practices that we follow. And in those religious practices, the devotion and bhakti and the ethical values that are taught.
Yes.
Right from the beginning of our life, I mean, when we start understanding things. So it's just because this knowledge around the thing about knowledge, very few people go there, I think.
Absolutely. They are not interested. People are really not interested. They don't see how it impacts their life on a day-to-day basis. And unless you have a love for just knowing the truth, a love for philosophy, that's what I have found. Actually, this is a big realization for me over many years, because I thought everybody would be interested, but really, nobody. Actually, nobody is interested.
Very
Or
few
very,
people.
very,
Nobody,
very,
actually, nobody is interested.
But Antahkarana Shuddhi, everybody is interested.
Yeah.
Those who are in this path, everybody is interested.
So, Dheeraj, I also wanted to bring in another correlation here, which I find very, very interesting, which doesn't come from, so we have the Vedanta version of Antahkarana Shuddhi, right? I think there's also a little bit of psychological version that comes from, people who are in mental health, right? Which
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
the concept of wounding, right? And
Wounding.
wounding, right? Everybody is wounded, right?
Yes.
And that
Yes.
wounding comes, right after you're born, and what you see around you, what you are taught, right? And those wounds can get very, very deep. Right? And so Antahkarana Shuddhi, in that parlance or lingo, is to really go and repair,
Yes.
the biases that you have created based
Right.
on your experiences, your knowledge, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that would be interesting to bring up, because I see a very deep correlation. In fact, I've
Absolutely.
seen even in Vedanta, the things about, there are deep fissures in you, right? And how do you redirect around that, right? So there are some talks even within the Vedanta framework that teach you that, right? So I thought I
100%.
would bring it up because, I mean, a lot of mental health people, one of the concepts that they actually focus on really is to go back to your childhood and understand, what's causing this, of course, pain or whatever you may, suffering that you're going through, right? And try to share techniques to build, go around that.
100%. I mean, if you listen to the video from last time, we actually discussed this,
I see.
and I would say that that's absolutely true. I think psychology plays a big part, or therapy plays a big part in Antahkarana Shuddhi. And I was just going to say one thing though, which is slightly different from how it's different from therapy. And Mukta was also talking about it, referring to that earlier. I think the goal of therapy is to develop a healthy self-image.
So, yeah.
Okay. And we discussed last time that we start with a no self-image. We quickly degenerate when we are young into an unhealthy self-image because of all kinds of issues and pressures, all kinds of hurts and things which happen when we are young. And that stays with us. And then we use therapy or other means or whatever our quest is to have a healthy self-image. You can use dharma also for it, or whichever technique you want to use. The only thing I would say is whether it is through healthy self-image or through dharma, if you lead a dharmic life, you still might have a judgment which says, for example, it's easier to describe this from a dharmic perspective, which says, I am dharmic, that other person is not dharmic, right? I'm dharmic, the other person is not dharmic. Therefore, that other person is worse than I am. I am superior to that other person. That, up until you could be very well, you could live a very dharmic life and people would accept this. They would say, yes, you are better and others are not dharmic. But for your own, to have Antahkarana Shuddhi means to not be able to say that just because I'm dharmic, I'm better than the other person. That is the difference between Antahkarana Shuddhi and therapy and everything else that I've come across in modern day life, even dharma. So if you remember, last time we discussed, there was a trait or a characteristic of Antahkarana Shuddhi called Kshanti, which means accommodation. That means being able to accommodate the other person, even if you think that the other person, even if you think that the other person is not dharmic, to be able to see that other person's perspective and say, why is that person not dharmic? Why did I become dharmic? Like what in my life, there were circumstances around in my life and experiences which made me go there. I wasn't born dharmic. That other person may not have had that opportunity. So Antahkarana Shuddhi is not just a healthy self-image. It's a little bit bigger more than a healthy self-image. It's literally, if you were to put it in Vedantic parlance, it's literally saying, understanding that self-image or or ahankar is actually mithya. So that's a technical description, but in general terms, it means being able to not focus too much on yourself, not make ahankar be the most important thing. I'm dharmic because hey, I'm better, that's why I'm dharmic. Or because I want to be better, I'll become dharmic. That linkage with ahankar makes it less shuddhi. I don't know whether I was able to get across in a long-winded way.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of aspects to this. I mean, one of the things that I feel like after having gone through this process is before Vedanta, I would jump into conclusions about people's personalities and how they act and behave. And one thing Vedanta has taught me is to be a lot more tolerant,
Hmm.
to not jump to conclusions about people, with the knowledge that, everybody is wounded. What you're seeing is, you know,
The effect of that wound,
effect
the
of
impact of
that,
that wound, yeah.
including your own effect.
Yeah,
You
including your
can
own, right.
actually, I have a very short temper, and I look at it and say, how do I manage this? Why doesn't it just rush, right? And how do you try to control that? And so yeah, I mean, I think a lot is convoluted around this, cleaning up the inner instrument, right? But there is something to that, I think.
Yeah. So I totally I get what you're saying. But you see as long as you see the importance of it, both from a day-to-day life and also from being on the spiritual path. Sanjay, anything to say, anything to add?
नहीं, everything I think we have on the things are difficult on the practical plane, and a lot of Antahkarana Shuddhi and Karma Yoga and inward thought process has to be evoked on a daily basis to see the results. And gradually, I think everything works towards a calm mind, a happy mind, a peaceful mind. That's all what we are looking for.
Yes.
And when that Antahkarana is in that state, then there is a lot of clarity of thought.
Yes.
Lot of the feeling of good well-being of a personality. You are happy, you are always on the high, and even what you are trying to achieve in life, the things also start falling in place, I think.
Yeah.
Once you are in tune with all these things and doing the right things, having the right thought process. So I think that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Everything you say, 100% agree. Atul, you want to add anything?
No, I think I'm good.
But what's your perspective on this? Do you agree with what is being said? Do you have
Huh?
any sort of additional comments?
No, not really. No.
Are you in agreement?
Yeah.
That's okay. One thing I would say, by the way, which maybe how to recognize wrinkles to resolve. I found this for myself also, is if you ever feel yourself restless, unhappy, upset, angry, that's a lovely, the canary in the in the mine. That's a lovely sign. That's a sort of a indication. Because that means just delve into that and see why actually you're getting angry. It will help you find your wrinkle. Because we can get angry and we blame others. Particularly if you're married, you'll blame your spouse. That's kind of the standard operating practice, procedure. Or your children or something else, and you'll say, okay, why did this person do this? Why could this person not do it like this? I mean, why does this person have to be like this? And that right away or later on during the day when you're a little in a calmer mood, you reflect on that and see how that pointed to your lack of Antahkarana Shuddhi. Because the persons are like they are, The world is what it is. There's nothing, you can try to change the world, but don't count on it. Okay? So why is it that you are unhappy? Because in reality, what is actually true, and you have to understand and believe this, is that you can be happy no matter what the circumstance, no matter what is going on around you. So if that's your end goal, if that's your sort of, you know that to be true, and you're not happy, that means it's pointing you to a wrinkle in yourself. For me, this was very helpful. I don't know. I just thought I'll share it with you guys. Because it's very hard to find these wrinkles otherwise. Very hard to know that, hey, I have to work on something. We can blame something else readily.
Dheeraj, I
How
just want
can
to add is my experience is, if you do not deal with your emotions, and try to study and understand them and try to, manage them, right? Um, that leads to indirectly or directly leads to wounding. Because, for example, a lot of us are taught that being angry is bad. Okay. And so most of us don't know when you're angry, how
Yeah,
to
that's
handle the
true. Yeah,
situation. So you avoid it. You right. But if
yeah,
you really learn that anger is an emotion, right? And it's okay to be angry.
yeah,
And you learn about the tools, right, of how to manage anger, which is something what you're saying is go deeper in and look at your, do a emotional dissection of where the root cause of anger is and try to deal with that.
yeah.
That's what therapy is all about too, right? Is,
Exactly.
healing the wound. So I think that's a very good correlation as well.
The difference I found, and you tell me whether this is right or wrong, this is just my perception, because I have a son who's a therapist. So I often have these chats with him.
And
I have
Rajiv has a daughter who is a therapist.
Henji?
I have two daughters who are therapists.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And a wife who's
So, yeah,
also
we get free
so
therapy whether we like it or not.
deep therapy. I have deep therapy going, surrounded by all these
No, but
people
see,
who
sometimes what I hear from him or understand from him in therapy is, you know, the goal of therapy is not Antahkarana Shuddhi, right? The goal of therapy is
no no
the goal of
yeah,
therapy is being able to lead a normal life,
yeah.
being able to manage yourself so that you can lead a normal, usual life, right? It's the bar is like this. And what happens in therapy is they may say, is it legitimate for you to get angry? This was a legitimate reason for anger, as opposed to this was not a legitimate reason for anger. In other words, if I'm angry because I suffered some loss or something happened to me, that is legitimate, right? If I'm angry because I'm expecting another person, if I'm encroaching on another person's rights, not seeing them, and the other person is pushing back, and that's making me angry, that's not legitimate. So, they assess to see what is legitimate anger versus non-legitimate, illegitimate anger, and that's fine too. Uh, we are not talking about just that. We are saying even what society considers legitimate anger is still uh, a pointer to you.
Yeah.
If you are really interested in Antahkarana Shuddhi, if that is important, that's. I just want to clarify that, but I agree with you entirely what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, even with the point of view that you are making, I mean, as soon as you get into the area of whether something is legit or not, right, you're already using your bias, right?
Yeah, you're using a bias.
People who so the difference between a therapist is, they understand what wounding is, where it comes from. It's not anybody's fault that people get wounded, right? It's the circumstances in which you grow up, right? And you have so much impact of your parents and their behaviors and so forth, and you do a lot of active and passive learning all the time, right? And then going through these year after year after year, right? And couple that with what society expects from you, it influences you as a person and your behaviors, and right. I mean, if you see your parents get angry and have an explosion, you think that that's a normal
Yeah,
behavior.
that's
So you
the way it is.
emulate
Yeah.
that, right?
Deep inside you
So
somewhere, you will legitimize it already. You'll say, yeah, that's okay.
exactly,
Nothing wrong in
yeah.
it.
So really, yeah. So I find a lot of mental therapy today is actually moving very quickly towards Vedanta. Because the real answer really lies in everything that Vedanta actually says and does, and there's just so much overlap in terms of at least dissecting the root causes of why people have so much pain and anger and frustration, and how do you manage all these things, right? Whether it's personal, whether it's in a business setting or is in interpersonal relationships, right?
Okay.
Dheeraj, going back to what you were saying before, Rajiv was saying about happiness, the taking out the wrinkles. I was just thinking, how can you be happy no matter what? Like anything happens,
Yeah.
supposing something really bad has happened, or somebody very close to you from whom you don't expect has said very mean things to you, and you feel hurt.
Yeah.
Those emotions do come.
Absolutely.
How can you be happy with that?
No. I'm sorry if I spoke. You can't be happy, and it's perfectly fine to be sad as long as you understand, what is causing that sadness. As long as you can see through it. This is actually very interesting. I've been talking to my cousins and so on also. We've been having our class every 2 weeks. So we recently went through chapter 2. But we are still going through chapter 2. And the first verse that Bhagavan Krishna said to Arjun, the first verse of the teaching, 2.11, is Krishna Bhagavan says, Ashocyan anvashochas tvam, right? Pragyavadansha bhashase. Cutting it short, I'll just put it in English. He says to Arjun, because Arjun has been in the battlefield and he looked at Drona and he looked at Bhishma and he felt very sad. He said, these are people who I respect most in my life. And I'm sitting them across. One of us is going to die. Either I have to kill them or they have to kill me. Because in those days, the war is not like you have a little thing and there's a ceasefire. There's no ceasefire. So at the end of the day, one of us has to die. And if I have to do my job as a Kshatriya, as a warrior, I have to kill them. He just couldn't get his head around it. And he got extremely sad. Gita describes it. He says he got so sad that the sadness manifested in his body. His body started shaking. His hand started shaking. He couldn't hold his dhanush. It fell from his hand. He had to sit down. His hair was, up in the body. It rose up. So they describe his lips were dry. They describe all this. Like they're extreme sad. In fact, that the first chapter of Gita is called Arjun Vishad Yoga, which means the sadness, the grief of Arjun. That is the topic of the first chapter. And Krishna Bhagavan listened to all this.
Okay,
then
but then that is something before Krishna gave the Gita advice. Okay.
Yeah, and I want to tell you that the reason. Go ahead.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying it is because the advice he gave can be very misleading. Just like what I said right now could be very misleading. The first thing Krishna told him was, Ashocyan anvashochastvam. That means you are grieving over something which is not worthy of grief. You tell me, is there anything which is more worthy of grief than having to kill your own grandfather and your guru? your own brothers, sisters, children. Is there anything more worthy of grief? Does it even compare to say, for example, somebody loved one saying something hurtful to us? Does it compare? So what Gita has done is it has juxtaposed the most uh, sort of calamitous situation it could find and put that, and then Krishna Bhagavan is saying, this is not worthy of grief. So it could be completely misunderstood. It could say that you're wrong to grieve. That is not what Bhagavan Krishna wanted to say. Because he went on to say, the whole shlok is Ashocha and Anvashocha. In the end, he says, Gata soon agata soonascha nanu shochanti panditaha. What it means is, for the things that are alive and for people who are dead, those who are living and those who've died, for neither of them, panditaha, the people who have deep self-knowledge, do not grieve. So he is not saying that you should not grieve, that you, Mukta, or me should not grieve. We should grieve. Because if anger comes to us or if grief comes to us, we have to grieve. Because otherwise we will go mad. We will become psychotic. Just like Rajiv was describing, that, anger is not bad. Anger has to pass. You just have to manage it. You have to go. All that Bhagavan Krishna said, and it is not all that, it is a big thing. He said those who understand this, understand themselves thoroughly and their own nature, the anger doesn't arise in the first place. The grief doesn't arise in the first place. If the grief arises, you have to deal with it. But he was saying, and that is not what our reality is, that the grief is not arising. In our reality, grief arises. So we have to deal with it. But he was just setting up a sort of the end state of a jnani, which is for that person, grief will not arise. And he gives reasons for why it won't arise. Because a person has complete conviction that the people that I'm killing are not dying. If I get killed, I'm not dead. I know that the body is mithya. I know that my true nature, my real self is Satyam. It is a very different place than what we are talking about right now. So that's why we have to understand it. So, I mean, I'm sorry if I misled you also. It is not.
No.
Yeah.
Basically, all this discussion has just made me think a few things right now. Like the example of Arjuna death of the relatives and grief. Grief is an emotion, right? Grief on death. So that can be understood, and supposing you studied Vedanta and the knowledge of Vedanta, with that you do understand that it's the death of the body, and the person doesn't die, the soul doesn't die. But at the Vyavharika level, don't we all continue to feel different kinds of emotions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We feel different.
So,
I mean, हमारा तो खैर छोड़ दो. You mean to say for a jnani? You're asking for a jnani. Would a jnani
yeah,
not
maybe
feel
Jnani also must be feeling, I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they describe it. He does feel. He does feel all the different kinds of emotions. And the jnani will also lose his temper. The jnani will also do all these things. But is that causing him deep unhappiness? Is it causing him deep restlessness? That is the question.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't. It has not. Like that's the difference between a jnani and a person like us, for whom it will be existential. Some things are like that we feel they're existential. They are not actually, but we feel they are. They kind of they overcome us. We get obsessed by that grief. A jnani it'll happen, it'll pass, it's gone. And the jnani moves on. That's what I think that's what Vedanta is trying to convey here. It's not saying that you become like a robot, कि कुछ, like you're suddenly nothing excites you, nothing hurts you, you're a stone. Not that. Well, actually speaking, what it's trying to say is that you will enjoy your life a lot more if you have better understanding, because you'll be able to go through the ups and downs of life in a more healthy, better fashion, more happily, and you know, without fear. Actually, that is the big thing that they say, bhai. You know, the difference between a person who has Antahkarana Shuddhi and a Jnani, even between the two, is fear. Even a person who has a lot of purity of mind still has fear somewhere. Whereas the person who's a Jnani, like Krishna Bhagavan was trying to teach, has no fear, nothing, not afraid of anything. They like many Upanishads, they kind of talk about duality. Duality causes fear. When you know that you as something and there's another person, something else, they're two different things, somewhere it causes fear. But anyway, it's all.
Anyway, one question for everybody, that ever since we started these Vedanta classes, what has been the impact of Vedanta on reducing our anxiety, fear, depression, handling tough situations? How much has it helped everybody? There's a question for everyone.
So let's start one by one. Maybe we should start with Atul, who has not spoken at all, who has been totally quiet, which is very disconcerting.
Unusual.
The Atul so totally quiet. This is the second. Last time also he didn't speak much. Thoda sa bola tha. So I'm not used to this.
About 10-20%.
About 20% improvement.
So we want to elaborate a little bit. In what way?
No, I mean, I think it's a general feeling, right? I mean, I don't have a thermometer tracking it. And I think even attribution can, or lack of attribution can be a problem. In other words, why is it improving or why is it improved? So, I mean, the question is in Vedanta, but if somebody asks a question and because you're eating better, you're sleeping more.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, like these days I'm sleeping 6-7 hours. So maybe it's
At a stretch,
that
continuously.
nothing to do with Vedanta. So I think it's sometimes we get too hung up on data, in that precision of data, when that doesn't really exist. So actually, this is a real thing. Like, okay, Vedanta, I've been part of this for years now, and for the last month and a half, I've been sleeping 6 hours instead of 3. So what is the impact? Which one is contributing? So that's why I'm saying, giving you a general answer of 10-20%.
But you feel that there's a difference. You do feel that.
Yeah.
Because of Vedanta.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying that, again, without the precision of
yeah, how much? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What about the others?
I find it difficult to say or put it into words exactly. But one thing I do understand, that it has kept my curiosity alive. It has kept my that urge to know more and more and more about Vedanta philosophy and the various Upanishads and what are they trying to say, to understand it. And I don't know.
Curiosity for knowledge हो गई ना. That is one aspect.
Knowledge, पर वो भी तो एक लिमिट होती है ना. अब हमें कितने 3 साल हो गए.
हाँ. चार हो गए.
4 हो गए. तो उसमें अभी तक मेरा पास्ट रिकॉर्ड ये है कि मैं शुरू करती हूँ कुछ, थोड़ा टाइम उसको, उसमें बहुत इंटरेस्ट रहता है, बहुत रहता है, and then slowly it dies. वो इतना होता है कि I'll go to the market, I buy books regarding that, I'll read. पहले इंटरनेट नहीं होता था. I'm talking of about 20 years back also, and then again फिर उसके बाद किसी दूसरी चीज का जोश आया, वो भी किया, तीसरी चीज भी किया, but they all fizzled out. This did not. So that is one thing.
That itself is a big thing.
That's a big thing for me.
No, any behavioral change or the impact of Vedanta on reactions.
मुझे पता नहीं, मुझे समझ नहीं
ask
आता.
Anil ji, he'll tell you.
No, उनको भी नहीं पता चलता हो.
नहीं, तेरा तो पता चल जाएगा ना उनको कि whether तेरे में चेंज आया कि नहीं.
I don't think so.
Okay.
मुझे लगता ही नहीं कि मेरे में कोई चेंज आया. अपने आप को ठीक है थोड़ा सा, आई डोंट नो, मुझे नहीं लगता कि मेरे में ऐसे कुछ चेंज आया है. पता नहीं.
Yeah, but that's Dheeraj. I'm surprised. I mean, a few sessions ago, we were talking about the observer and the observed,
Right.
and the difference and the inability for the observer to be the observed.
To observe himself.
Yeah, so I think the struggle that Mukta is articulating is a direct reflection of that. Yeah, I've been paying attention.
You've been paying attention. I'm very impressed, Atul. अभी तो तू audit class में and you're paying attention. Once you apply your whole brain to it, तो क्या होगा?
Atul, the other day I told Dheeraj that what Atul says that I am auditing, it's just a word to say auditing, but he's actually doing the listening and the mananam. Shravanam and
I agree with
mananam.
you. My auditing is not कि मैं कामचोर हूँ. My audit is that the purpose is different.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, so
I
I mean, I
believe you
pay
are
attention.
doing the real Shravan and mananam.
No, I totally. Thank you for noticing that, but I agree with
Yeah.
you.
ये audit तो कहने की बात है. This is just it's like
हाँ,
his
वो कहने की
exit
बात है
ramp.
बस. वो
कि नहीं,
admit नहीं करना कि
हाँ,
he is doing
commit
Shravan
नहीं
and
करना अपने
mananam.
आप को, commit नहीं करना. So
Yeah.
इसलिए
I
कह रहा
can
हूँ.
share a few.
एग्जाम नहीं लेना चाहता मतलब
Exam नहीं देना.
अतुल ये नहीं कहना चाहता कि ही इज ए मेन स्ट्रीम वेदांतिस्ट. ही सेज कि मैं हाँ रिवर साइड से फ्लो देख रहा हूँ, मैं तमाशा देख रहा हूँ. आई एम नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द.
Sorry, Rajiv, you were going to say?
Yeah, so I should share a couple of things that I've learned, and you know they should be relevant to this discussion. I can see that when your mind is stable, that there's a lot of peace, inner peace. There's a big difference between that and how I used to operate earlier, right? So if I can actually stabilize my mind, I can handle situations much better. So that certainly, including sleeping well at night. I think Atul was mentioning that you get really good, energizing sleep when your mind is restful and it's not, burdened by a number of things, right? So that's one area. The other area is relationship with other people, right? Which you were talking about earlier, right? Is, earlier, when you deal with people and personalities, you always kind of say, it's my way or the highway, right? I mean, it's colored by, how you think, what your biases are. You sometimes wonder why people act the way they do. And at this time, after going through all this knowledge, you kind of understand the process of, by doing internal inquiry on yourself, you kind of get to understand who you are rather than trying to think about, other people and why they act the way they do. It's more self-driven about, I no longer question why people act the way they do, because I know, applying the process to myself to say, okay, why do I feel the way this way, right?
Right, exactly.
So it's actually, given, in a position of leadership, it actually gives you this tool to stay balanced all the time and not be gyrated by the daily ups and downs of life, right? So
Totally.
that's the other beneficial thing. Now, I can tell you, stabilizing the mind is not an easy thing. Okay, very quickly you find in a real world circumstance that you go back to your wounding and your original instincts, right? Which is why this process is so hard. But it's a it's progress. I mean, I feel good. I think nididhyasana is not easy. It's actually, the learnings are there, and you try to apply them. So that's the other practical thing that I can see. Of course, I'm meditating more. It's hard sometimes to bring the mind down, even while you're trying to meditate. But certainly the stability of the mind helps keep me, helps me keep my feet on the ground. And it's actually has helped a lot in my relationships with, my near and dear ones, because some of them have started pointing that, Dad, you used to get angry about all these things, right? Levels, or becoming more and more tolerant about other people and their thinking and their behaviors. So those are a couple of, I think, distinct advantages that I see. The third thing really is, now, I used to be very, very ambitious. Okay. And I mean, we all know why that is the case. I think we all grew up in similar circumstances and so forth. But now I try to do deeper understanding of, why am I chasing all these things? Because there's a healthy debate inside of me about chasing dreams and what makes you happy. Should I really be doing this, right? Should money be a motivator? Should power be a motivator? What is all this nonsense, right, in life, right? Is this all going to bring me peace of life? So healthy debates internally about that, which I think would never have happened without Vedanta.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to see that. Well, not that I have anything to do with Vedanta, but it's good that you see that change.
So on the whole, what we find is Vedanta is helping shape us better lives, better way of living, better thought processes, peace of mind, some increase in level of happiness and tolerance. So I think we are all on the right path. And Vedanta has really helped us through knowledge to gain all these experiences, good and bad and everything. And I think Dheeraj, you are doing a great job.
Okay, that's good. I like the conclusion of the whole thing.
Conclusion of it.
It was beginning to sound like a course evaluation class,
I
last.
know.
Yeah, and I hope this is not the end of it, because evaluations happen at the end.
Oh, at the end. Yeah.
And I would like to add that today I was very, very sleepy. Very sleepy. Like, had this meeting not been there, I would have been in bed at 9 o'clock.
Oh.
But then I was worried that I won't be attentive. I would just be physically present and not mentally present. But look at me, I am totally in the
Yeah, I could never have guessed you were sleepy.
meeting and in the discussion mode, and all alert. All my sleepiness has gone away.
Oh my God, that's not good. You need to sleep.
No. I'll
I
sleep.
know.
I am so sleep deprived today that I'll sleep.
Yeah, no. We
No,
couldn't have
even Dheeraj, what I have seen, these small sessions, whatever we have every 4, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
It gives a good feeling. for the next 15 days. Or the week starts, then you are happy about it that the meet is coming, the class is coming.
That's good. Very, very
Yeah.
good. Yeah. No, me
We,
too. I look forward to it.
at least I look forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do. I mean, it's something that has helped me also. I mean, a lot, Vedanta, and even these classes have helped me because it forces me to, like for example, I had to today. I thought it was seeming to me I'm going to go through all these points one by one by one. I've already gone through them before. दोबारा से repeat कर दूंगा. क्या? What is the essence of it? What's really at the heart of it? It forces me to say, how can I make it interesting for you and more meaningful for you? So then I have to think. And otherwise, I would not have, thought the discussion that we had today. So it's very useful for me. Atul will know that because he believes that teaching is the best way to learn. So no, it's all very good. I'm very happy to hear, and we'll continue this as long as we can.
Yeah.
ठीक है? चलो. I think now you guys better sleep, both of you.
अब तो नींद खुल चुकी है.
अब नींद खुलने नहीं आ जाएगी. चुप चुप बोलो.
अभी तो
चलो. Okay, Atul and Rajiv.
Okay.
We'll see you guys.
okay.
Bye, Mukta, Sanjay.
Bye.